Anna adjusted her uniform one last time before stepping into the cabin. The familiar hum of the airplane engines filled her ears as she walked down the aisle, greeting passengers with her warm, professional smile. She loved her job as a flight attendant. It wasn't just about serving drinks or ensuring safety. It was about connecting with people, even if only for a few hours. Every flight brought new faces, new stories, and sometimes unexpected challenges. Today she felt ready for whatever the day might bring. As the passengers settled into their seats, Anna began her usual routine of walking through the cabin, checking seat belts, and ensuring everyone was comfortable. She had done this countless times before, but her sharp eyes always scanned for anything out of the ordinary. It was during this routine check that her attention was drawn to a little girl sitting in seat 22A. The girl couldn't have been more than 7 years old. She had long, dark hair that framed her pale face, and her big, round eyes seemed to hold a quiet sadness. She sat hunched over, clutching her stomach with one hand while the other rested limply on her lap. Her small frame looked even smaller in the oversized airplane seat. Next to her sat a woman, presumably her mother, engrossed in a thick paperback novel. The woman didn't seem to notice her daughter's discomfort. Anna crouched down slightly to meet the girl's eye level. "Hi there, sweetheart," she said gently, her voice soft and reassuring. "What's your name?" The girl looked up at Anna, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Lily," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "That's a beautiful name," Anna said with a smile. "Are you feeling okay, Lily?" Lily hesitated, glancing at her mother as if unsure whether she should answer. Finally, she shook her head. "My tummy hurts," she admitted, her small hand pressing against her stomach. Anna's smile faltered slightly, concern flickering in her eyes. "How long has it been hurting, sweetie?" she asked. "Since this morning," Lily replied, her voice trembling. "But Mommy said I have to sit still and be quiet." Anna turned her attention to the woman sitting next to Lily. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said politely. "I couldn't help but notice that your daughter seems to be in some discomfort. Has she been feeling unwell?" The woman, who had been so absorbed in her book that she hadn't even looked up, finally closed it with a sigh. She glanced at Anna, then at Lily, her expression a mix of mild annoyance and indifference. "Oh, she's fine," the woman said dismissively. "She's just being dramatic. Probably ate something that didn't agree with her." Anna frowned slightly but kept her tone professional. "I understand, but she does seem quite pale, and she mentioned that her stomach has been hurting since this morning. It might be worth keeping an eye on her." The woman waved a hand dismissively. "She'll be fine. Kids get stomachaches all the time. She just needs to rest." Anna nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced. "Of course, if you need anything or if her condition worsens, please don't hesitate to call me," she said, standing up. She gave Lily a reassuring smile before continuing down the aisle. As Anna moved through the cabin, checking on other passengers, her mind kept drifting back to Lily. Something about the little girl's pale face and the way she clutched her stomach didn't sit right with her. She had seen plenty of children on flights before, some nervous, some excited, some downright mischievous. But Lily's quiet demeanor and obvious discomfort were different. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A few minutes later, as Anna was handing out drinks to passengers, she glanced back toward seat 22A. Lily was still sitting in the same position, her hand pressed against her stomach. Her mother had returned to her book, seemingly oblivious to her daughter's condition. Anna decided to check on them again. She approached the seat with a warm smile. "Hi again, Lily," she said, crouching down once more. "How are you feeling now?" Lily looked up at her, tears now spilling down her cheeks. "It still hurts," she said, her voice quivering. "A lot." Anna's heart sank. She turned to the mother again, her tone more insistent this time. "Ma'am, I really think we should take a closer look at your daughter. She seems to be in a lot of pain." The woman sighed heavily, clearly irritated. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but she's fine. She just needs to sit still and stop whining. We've got a long flight ahead and I don't want to make a fuss over nothing." Anna bit her lip, trying to remain calm. She didn't want to overstep, but her instincts told her that this wasn't nothing. She decided to escalate the situation. "I understand, ma'am, but as part of my job, I need to ensure the safety and well-being of all passengers. If her condition doesn't improve, I may need to notify the head flight attendant." The woman rolled her eyes but didn't argue further. Anna turned back to Lily, her voice softening. "Lily, can you tell me exactly where it hurts? Is it just your tummy or does it hurt anywhere else?" Lily pointed to the lower right side of her abdomen. "Here," she said, wincing as she pressed her hand against the spot. Anna's concern deepened. She wasn't a doctor, but she knew enough to recognize that pain in the lower right abdomen could be a sign of something serious, like appendicitis. She couldn't ignore this. "Okay, sweetheart," Anna said, her tone calm and soothing. "I'm going to talk to my team and we'll figure out how to help you, okay?" Lily nodded, her eyes wide with trust. Anna stood up and walked briskly toward the front of the cabin, her mind racing. She needed to act quickly. If this was appendicitis, delaying treatment could be dangerous. She approached the head flight attendant and explained the situation. "I think we might have a medical emergency," Anna said, keeping her voice low to avoid alarming the other passengers. "There's a little girl in seat 22A who's experiencing severe abdominal pain. It could be something serious, like appendicitis." The head flight attendant frowned, her expression turning serious. "We'll need to notify the captain," she said. "If it's as bad as you think, we might have to consider an emergency landing." Anna nodded, her heart pounding. She knew that making the decision to divert a flight was a big deal. It would inconvenience hundreds of passengers and cost the airline a significant amount of money. But she also knew that Lily's health and safety had to come first. As the head flight attendant went to speak with the captain, Anna returned to Lily's seat. She crouched down once more, her smile warm but her eyes filled with concern. "Lily, we're going to make sure you're okay," she said. "You're very brave, and we're going to take good care of you." Lily nodded, her small hand reaching out to hold Anna's. "Thank you," she whispered. Anna squeezed her hand gently. "You're welcome, sweetheart. Just hang in there." As she stood up, Anna glanced at the mother, who now looked more worried than annoyed. "We're going to do everything we can to help her," Anna said firmly. The woman nodded, her earlier indifference replaced by a flicker of fear. "Thank you," she said quietly. Anna walked back to the front of the cabin, her mind racing. She didn't know what the next few hours would bring, but she was determined to do everything in her power to ensure that Lily got the help she needed. Anna walked back to her station at the front of the cabin, but her mind was still on Lily. The little girl's pale face and the way she clutched her stomach lingered in Anna's thoughts. Something about the situation didn't feel right. She had seen children on flights before, some nervous, some restless, some even pretending to be sick to get attention. But Lily's quiet demeanor and visible discomfort were different. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a simple stomachache. As she prepared the drink cart for service, Anna glanced back toward seat 22A. Lily was still sitting in the same position, her small hand pressed firmly against her stomach. Her head was slightly bowed, and her dark hair fell over her face, but Anna could see the tension in her body. The girl wasn't fidgeting or whining like most children would when they were bored or uncomfortable. Instead, she sat unnaturally still, as if moving would make the pain worse. Anna decided she couldn't ignore it. She pushed the drink cart down the aisle, stopping to serve passengers along the way, but her focus remained on Lily. When she reached row 22, she paused and crouched down next to the little girl again. "Hi, Lily," Anna said softly, her voice warm and reassuring. "How are you feeling now? Is your tummy still hurting?" Lily looked up at her, and Anna's heart sank. The girl's face was even paler than before, and beads of sweat had formed on her forehead. Her big round eyes were glassy, and she looked like she was on the verge of tears. "It still hurts," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "A lot." Anna frowned, her concern deepening. "Can you tell me where it hurts the most, sweetheart?" "Is it here?" she asked, gently pointing to the center of Lily's stomach. Lily shook her head weakly and moved her hand to the lower right side of her abdomen. "It hurts here," she said, wincing as she pressed her hand against the spot. Anna's stomach tightened. She wasn't a doctor, but she knew enough to recognize that pain in the lower right abdomen could be a sign of something serious, like appendicitis. She needed to act quickly, but first she had to convince Lily's mother to take the situation seriously. Anna turned to the woman sitting next to Lily. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said politely but firmly. "I'm really concerned about your daughter. She's in a lot of pain and it seems to be getting worse. I think we should take a closer look." The woman, Sarah, looked up from her book with a sigh, clearly annoyed at being interrupted again. "I told you she's fine," Sarah said dismissively. "She probably just ate something that didn't agree with her. Kids get stomach aches all the time." Anna kept her tone calm and professional, but she didn't back down. "I understand, ma'am, but this doesn't seem like a typical stomach ache. She's very pale and she's sweating. That, combined with the location of the pain, could indicate something more serious." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but I know my daughter. She's just being dramatic. She'll be fine once we land." Anna bit her lip. trying to keep her frustration in check. She knew that some parents didn't like being told how to care for their children, but she couldn't ignore what she was seeing. Lily's condition was clearly worsening, and Anna felt a growing sense of urgency. "Ma'am," Anna said, her voice firm but still respectful, "I really think we need to take this seriously. If it's something like appendicitis, delaying treatment could be dangerous." Sarah sighed again, this time with a hint of exasperation. "Fine," she said, closing her book with a snap. "What do you want to do? Call a doctor? We're on a plane in case you haven't noticed." Anna ignored the sarcasm and focused on the task at hand. "I'd like to monitor her closely for the next few minutes," she said. "If her condition doesn't improve, I'll need to notify the head flight attendant and the captain. We may need to consider an emergency landing." Sarah's eyes widened slightly at the mention of an emergency landing. "An emergency landing? Isn't that a bit extreme? You're going to inconvenience all these passengers over a stomachache?" Anna met Sarah's gaze, her expression calm but resolute. "Ma'am, I understand your concerns, but my priority is the safety and well-being of all passengers, including your daughter. If there's even a chance that this could be something serious, I have to act." Sarah hesitated, her annoyance giving way to uncertainty. She glanced at Lily, who was now leaning back in her seat, her eyes half closed and her breathing shallow. For the first time, Sarah seemed to notice just how unwell her daughter looked. "Okay," Sarah said reluctantly. "Do what you need to do." Anna nodded, relieved that she had at least gotten Sarah's permission to proceed. She gave Lily a reassuring smile. "You're doing great, Lily," she said softly. "Just hang in there, okay? We're going to take care of you." Lily nodded weakly, her small hand still clutching her stomach. Anna stood up and walked briskly toward the front of the cabin, her mind racing. She needed to report the situation to the head flight attendant and get their input on the next steps. When Anna reached the front of the plane, she found the head flight attendant, a seasoned professional named Margaret, reviewing the flight manifest. Margaret looked up as Anna approached, her sharp eyes immediately picking up on Anna's serious expression. "What's going on?" Margaret asked, setting the manifest aside. Anna quickly explained the situation, describing Lily's symptoms and her growing concern that the little girl might be suffering from appendicitis. Margaret listened intently, her expression turning grave. "That does sound serious," Margaret said. "We can't take any chances with something like that. I'll notify the captain and let him know we might need to divert the flight." Anna nodded, grateful for Margaret's support. "Thank you," she said. "In the meantime, I'll keep an eye on her and see if her condition changes." Margaret placed a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "Let me know if you need anything." Anna returned to the cabin, her heart pounding. She knew that making the decision to divert a flight was a big deal. It would inconvenience hundreds of passengers and cost the airline a significant amount of money. But she also knew that Lily's health and safety had to come first. As Anna approached seat 22A, she saw that Lily's condition hadn't improved. The little girl was now slumped in her seat, her breathing shallow and her face glistening with sweat. Sarah was fidgeting nervously, her earlier indifference replaced by a flicker of fear. "Is she going to be okay?" Sarah asked, her voice shaky. Anna crouched down next to Lily, her smile warm but her eyes filled with concern. "We're going to do everything we can to help her," she said. "You're very brave, Lily. Just hang in there." Lily looked up at Anna, her eyes wide with trust. "Thank you," she whispered. Anna squeezed her hand gently. "You're welcome, sweetheart," she said. "We're going to make sure you're okay." As Anna stood up, she glanced at Sarah, who now looked genuinely worried. "We're notifying the captain," Anna said. "If her condition doesn't improve soon, we'll need to land and get her medical attention." Sarah nodded, her earlier resistance completely gone. "Thank you," she said quietly. Anna walked back to the front of the cabin, her mind racing. She didn't know what the next few hours would bring, but she was determined to do everything in her power to ensure that Lily got the help she needed. Anna stood at the front of the cabin, her eyes darting back towards seat 22A. She had been checking on Lily every few minutes, but the little girl's condition was clearly worsening. The pale complexion that had first caught Anna's attention was now almost ghostly white, and Lily's forehead was slick with sweat. Her small body trembled slightly, and her breathing had become shallow and uneven. Anna's chest tightened with worry. This was no ordinary stomachache. She grabbed a bottle of water and a cool compress from the galley and made her way back to Lily. As she approached, she noticed that Sarah, Lily's mother, was now visibly anxious. The book she had been so engrossed in earlier was shoved into the seat pocket, forgotten. Sarah was leaning over her daughter, gently shaking her shoulder. "Lily, honey, talk to me," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "Are you okay?" Lily didn't respond. Her eyes were half closed and her small hand still clutched her stomach. Anna crouched down beside her, placing the cool compress gently on Lily's forehead. "Lily, sweetheart, can you hear me?" Anna asked softly. Lily opened her eyes slightly and gave a weak nod. "It hurts," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Anna turned to Sarah, her tone calm but firm. "Ma'am, I'm very concerned about your daughter. Her condition is deteriorating quickly. I think we're dealing with something serious." Sarah's face was pale, and her hands trembled as she brushed Lily's hair back from her damp forehead. "What do you mean? What's wrong with her?" she asked, her voice rising with panic. "I'm not a doctor," Anna said carefully, "but the symptoms, severe abdominal pain, sweating, and now her stomach feels hard, could indicate something like appendicitis. If that's the case, it's critical that she gets medical attention as soon as possible." Sarah's eyes widened, and she looked down at Lily, who was now whimpering softly. "Oh my God," she murmured. "I thought it was just a stomachache. I didn't think it was this serious." Anna placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You couldn't have known," she said gently. "But now that we see how serious it is, we need to act quickly. I'm going to speak with the head flight attendant and the captain. We may need to make an emergency landing." Sarah nodded, her earlier resistance completely gone. "Please do whatever you need to do," she said, her voice breaking. "Just help her." Anna gave her a reassuring nod before standing up and walking briskly to the front of the cabin. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stay calm. She found Margaret, the head flight attendant, near the galley, reviewing the flight plan. "Margaret," Anna said, her voice low but urgent. "Lily's condition is getting worse. She's sweating heavily, her face is pale, and her stomach feels hard. I think this could be appendicitis." Margaret's expression turned serious. "That doesn't sound good," she said. "Have you spoken to the mother?" "Yes," Anna replied. "She's on board with whatever we need to do. I think we need to notify the captain and consider an emergency landing." Margaret nodded. "I'll talk to the captain right now. Stay with the girl and keep monitoring her condition. If anything changes, let me know immediately." Anna returned to Lily's seat, her mind racing. She crouched down beside the little girl again, taking her small hand in hers. "Lily, you're doing so well," Anna said softly. "We're going to get you some help very soon, okay?" Lily nodded weakly, her eyes fluttering closed. Sarah reached over and gently shook her daughter's shoulder. "Stay awake, baby," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You have to stay awake." Anna placed a hand on Sarah's arm. "It's okay," she said. "She's just exhausted. But you're right. Let's keep her awake for now." A few moments later, Margaret returned, her expression grim but determined. "The captain agrees," she said. "We're going to divert to Denver. It's the closest airport with the medical facilities we'll need. I've already contacted the ground crew, and they're arranging for an ambulance to meet us when we land." Anna felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you," she said. "I'll let the mother know." Margaret nodded. "I'll make an announcement to the passengers. Let's keep this as calm and orderly as possible." Anna turned back to Sarah, who was now holding Lily's hand tightly. "Ma'am," Anna said gently, "we're going to land in Denver so Lily can get the medical attention she needs. There will be an ambulance waiting for her as soon as we land." Sarah's eyes filled with tears and she nodded quickly. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "Thank you so much." Anna gave her a reassuring smile. "We're going to take good care of her," she said. "Just hang in there." As Margaret made the announcement to the passengers, Anna stayed by Lily's side, monitoring her condition. The cabin was filled with a low murmur as passengers reacted to the news of the emergency landing, but most seemed understanding. A few even offered words of support as Anna moved back and forth between the galley and seat 22A, fetching water and supplies. The minutes felt like hours as the plane began its descent. Anna kept a close eye on Lily, who was now drifting in and out of consciousness. Sarah was visibly shaking, her hands clutching her daughter's as if she could will her to stay awake. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. "It hurts." "I know, baby," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "We're almost there. Just hold on a little longer." Anna crouched down beside them, her voice calm and steady. "Lily, you're so brave," she said. "We're going to land soon, and the doctors are going to help you feel better. You're doing amazing." Lily gave a small nod, her eyes fluttering closed again. Anna glanced at Sarah, who looked utterly helpless. "She's strong," Anna said softly. "And so are you. We're almost there. The plane touched down in Denver with a slight jolt, and Anna felt a surge of relief. As the aircraft taxied to the gate, Margaret came over to Anna. "The ambulance is ready," she said. "As soon as the doors open, we'll get them off the plane." Anna nodded and turned back to Sarah. "Okay, ma'am," she said. "When the doors open, I'll help you and Lily get to the ambulance. Just stay with me, and we'll get her the help she needs." Sarah nodded, her grip on Lily tightening. "Thank you," she said again, her voice barely above a whisper. When the plane came to a stop, the doors opened, and the paramedics rushed on board. Anna stepped aside as they assessed Lily, their movements quick and efficient. Within moments, they had her on a stretcher and were wheeling her off the plane, with Sarah close behind. As they disappeared down the jet bridge, Anna felt a wave of exhaustion and relief. She had done everything she could, and now Lily was in the hands of professionals. Margaret placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did good, Anna," she said. "You probably saved that little girl's life." Anna nodded, her eyes still fixed on the empty jet bridge. "I just hope she's okay," she said quietly. "She will be," Margaret said. "Thanks to you." The plane touched down on the runway at Denver International Airport with a slight jolt, the sound of the wheels screeching against the tarmac filling the cabin. Anna, standing near the front of the plane, gripped the back of a seat to steady herself. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stay calm. This was the moment they had been working toward, getting Lily the help she desperately needed. As the plane slowed to a stop, Anna glanced back toward seat 22A. Sarah was leaning over Lily, her face pale and stricken with fear. Lily lay slumped in her seat, her small body barely moving. The sight made Anna's chest tighten, but she knew she couldn't let her emotions take over. She had to stay focused. Margaret, the head flight attendant, approached Anna. "The paramedics are waiting at the gate," she said, her voice low but steady. "As soon as the doors open, we'll get them on board." Anna nodded. "I'll stay with Lily and her mother until they're off the plane," she said. "Can you handle the passengers?" Margaret gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "I've got it. You just focus on them." The plane came to a complete stop, and the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've made an emergency landing at Denver International Airport due to a medical situation. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened while we assist the passenger in need. Thank you for your understanding." The cabin was eerily quiet, the usual post-landing chatter replaced by a tense silence. Anna moved quickly down the aisle toward Lily's seat. Sarah looked up as Anna approached, her eyes wide with panic. "Is she going to be okay?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "She's not moving much. Oh my God, what if it's too late?" Anna crouched down beside her, placing a steadying hand on Sarah's arm. "She's going to be okay," Anna said firmly, her voice calm and reassuring. "The paramedics are right outside. They'll be here in just a minute and they'll take care of her." Sarah nodded, though her hands were still shaking as she brushed Lily's hair back from her damp forehead. "I should have listened to you earlier," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I thought it was just a stomachache. I didn't think it was this serious." Anna squeezed Sarah's arm gently. "You couldn't have known," she said. "What matters now is that we're getting her the help she needs." At that moment, the cabin door opened and two paramedics stepped on board, carrying a stretcher and medical equipment. Anna stood up and waved them over. "She's here," Anna said, leading them to seat 22A. The paramedics moved quickly, assessing Lily's condition with practiced efficiency. One of them gently lifted Lily from her seat and placed her on the stretcher, while the other checked her vital signs. Sarah hovered nearby, her hands clasped tightly together, her face etched with worry. "Her pulse is weak, but she's stable for now," one of the paramedics said. "We need to get her to the hospital immediately." Sarah let out a shaky breath, her voice breaking as she spoke. "Can I go with her? Please, I need to be with her." "Of course," the paramedic said. "You can ride in the ambulance with us." Anna stepped forward, placing a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. "I'll help you get off the plane," she said. "Just stay close to me." Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving Lily as the paramedic secured the stretcher. Anna turned to the passengers seated nearby, who were watching the scene unfold with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Thank you all for your patience," Anna said, her voice calm but firm. "We're assisting a passenger with a medical emergency. Please remain seated until we've safely escorted them off the plane." The passengers nodded, some murmuring words of support as Anna turned back to Sarah and the paramedics. Together, they carefully maneuvered the stretcher down the aisle, with Sarah following closely behind. Anna stayed by Sarah's side, her presence steady and reassuring. As they reached the front of the plane, Margaret stepped aside to let them pass. "Good luck," she said quietly to Anna. "You're doing great." Anna gave her a small nod before turning her attention back to Sarah. "We're almost there," she said. "Just a few more steps." The paramedics carried Lily down the jet bridge, where an ambulance was waiting with its lights flashing. The sight seemed to overwhelm Sarah, who let out a small sob as she followed them outside. Anna placed a steadying hand on her back, guiding her toward the ambulance. "You're doing great," Anna said softly. "Just stay with her. She's in good hands now." The paramedics loaded Lily into the ambulance, and one of them helped Sarah climb in after her. Before the doors closed, Sarah turned to Anna, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "Thank you for everything. You saved her life." Anna shook her head, a small, reassuring smile on her face. "You're the one who's been there for her," she said. "Just focus on her now. She's going to be okay." The ambulance doors closed, and Anna watched as it sped away, its siren wailing. She stood there for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady herself. The adrenaline that had kept her going was beginning to wear off, leaving her feeling both exhausted and relieved. When Anna returned to the plane, the cabin was still quiet. Margaret was addressing the passengers, explaining that the flight would resume shortly. As Anna walked back to her station, several passengers stopped her to offer words of support. "You did an amazing job," one woman said. "That little girl is lucky to have had you looking out for her." Anna smiled politely, though her mind was still on Lily. She hoped the little girl was on her way to getting the care she needed. As she reached the front of the cabin, Margaret approached her. "How are you holding up?" Margaret asked. "I'm okay," Anna said, though her voice was tinged with exhaustion. "I just hope she's going to be all right." Margaret nodded. "You did everything you could," she said, "and because of you, she's getting the help she needs. That's what matters." Anna nodded, taking another deep breath. She knew Margaret was right, but the weight of the situation still lingered. As the plane prepared to take off again, Anna focused on her duties, knowing that she had done her part to make a difference. The hospital waiting room was quiet, except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional murmur of voices from the nurses' station. Sarah sat in one of the plastic chairs, her hands clasped tightly together, her knuckles white. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, and she stared blankly at the floor, replaying the events of the past few hours over and over in her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about how close they had come to disaster. A doctor in a white coat finally emerged from the double doors leading to the emergency room. Sarah shot to her feet, her heart pounding in her chest. The doctor, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, approached her with a calm but serious expression. "Mrs. Carter?" he asked. "Yes, that's me," Sarah said quickly, her voice trembling. "How's Lily? Is she okay?" The doctor gave her a reassuring nod. "Your daughter is stable now," he said. "She was suffering from acute appendicitis. Her appendix was inflamed and on the verge of rupturing. If we hadn't operated when we did, it could have been life-threatening." Sarah's knees nearly buckled, and she grabbed the back of the chair for support. "Oh my God," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I didn't realize it was that serious. I thought it was just a stomachache." The doctor placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's not uncommon for parents to mistake the symptoms for something less serious," he said gently. "But thanks to the quick actions of the flight crew, we were able to intervene in time. You should be very grateful for their decision to make an emergency landing." Sarah nodded, her chest tightening with a mix of relief and guilt. "Can I see her?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Of course," the doctor said. "She's resting now, but she's awake. Follow me." Sarah followed the doctor down the hallway, her heart racing. When they reached Lily's room, Sarah hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. Lily was lying in a hospital bed, her small frame dwarfed by the crisp white sheets. An IV was attached to her arm, and her face was still pale, but her eyes were open, and she managed a weak smile when she saw her mother. "Mommy," Lily said softly. Sarah rushed to her side, tears streaming down her face as she gently took Lily's hand. "Oh, baby," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I should have known something was wrong." Lily looked up at her, her big eyes filled with trust. "It's okay, Mommy," she said. "Anna helped me." Sarah's heart clenched at the mention of Anna. She thought back to the flight attendant's calm, steady presence and her insistence that Lily's condition was serious. If it hadn't been for Anna, Sarah knew she might have ignored the signs until it was too late. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Sarah turned to see Anna standing in the doorway, still in her uniform. Her face was tired, but her eyes were warm, and she held a small stuffed bear in her hands. "Hi," Anna said softly. "I just wanted to check in and see how Lily's doing." Sarah stood up, her emotions overwhelming her. "Anna," she said, her voice breaking, "I don't even know how to thank you. You saved my daughter's life." Anna stepped into the room, her expression humble. "I just did my job," she said. "I'm so glad she's okay." "No," Sarah said firmly, shaking her head. "You did more than your job. You saw what I didn't. You knew something was wrong, and you didn't give up, even when I didn't take it seriously. If it weren't for you—" Her voice trailed off as tears filled her eyes again. Anna placed the stuffed bear on the bedside table and gave Sarah a reassuring smile. "You're here now," she said. "That's what matters, and Lily's going to be just fine." Lily, who had been quietly watching the exchange, reached out her hand toward Anna. "Thank you, Anna," she said softly. "You're really nice." Anna's heart melted as she took Lily's small hand in hers. "You're very brave, Lily," she said. "You did so well today. I'm so proud of you." Lily smiled faintly, her eyelids drooping as the medication and exhaustion began to take over. Sarah gently stroked her daughter's hair, her heart aching with both love and regret. As Lily drifted off to sleep, Sarah turned back to Anna. "I've been thinking about everything that happened," she said quietly, "and I can't stop feeling guilty. I should have paid more attention. I should have listened to her when she said she was in pain." Anna shook her head gently. "Don't be too hard on yourself," she said. "It's easy to miss the signs, especially when you're not expecting something serious. What's important is that you're here for her now." Sarah nodded, though the guilt still lingered in her chest. "I'll never take her complaints lightly again," she said. "I've learned my lesson." Anna gave her a kind smile. "We all do the best we can," she said. "And you're a good mom, Sarah. I could see how much you love her." Sarah's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "Not just for what you did for Lily, but for being so kind to me, even when I didn't deserve it." Anna reached out and gave Sarah's arm a gentle squeeze. "You deserved kindness," she said simply. "We all do." The two women stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the day settling over them. Finally, Anna glanced at her watch. "I should get going," she said. "The crew is waiting for me and we still have a flight to finish." Sarah nodded, a small smile breaking through her tears. "Thank you again, Anna," she said. "I'll never forget what you did for us." Anna smiled back. "Take care of yourself and Lily," she said. "And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out." With that, Anna turned and left the room, her heart feeling lighter than it had all day. As she walked down the hospital hallway, she allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. She had done her job, yes, but more than that, she had made a difference. And that, she thought, was what being a flight attendant was truly about. Back in the waiting room, Anna paused for a moment to collect herself before heading back to the airport. The day had been long and emotionally draining, but as she thought about Lily's small smile and Sarah's heartfelt gratitude, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had done the right thing, and because of that, a little girl was safe. As Anna stepped outside into the cool evening air, she took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. The stars were just beginning to appear, and for the first time all day she felt at peace. Anna stepped back onto the plane, the cool, familiar hum of the cabin greeting her like an old friend. The passengers were still seated, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. She could feel their eyes on her as she walked toward the front of the cabin, her mind still replaying the events of the last hour. The image of Lily being wheeled into the ambulance was fresh in her mind, but so was the relief on Sarah's face when the paramedics assured her that her daughter would be okay. Margaret was waiting for her near the galley, her expression softening when she saw Anna. "How's the little girl?" she asked quietly. "She's stable," Anna replied, her voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. "The doctors said it was acute appendicitis. They operated just in time." Margaret let out a small sigh of relief. "You did good, Anna," she said. "You handled everything perfectly." Anna gave her a faint smile. "Thanks, Margaret. I couldn't ignore it. Something told me it was serious." Margaret nodded knowingly. "That's what makes you great at this job. You trust your instincts and you care. Not everyone would have pushed as hard as you did." Anna glanced back toward the cabin where the passengers were still waiting patiently. "I should let them know what's going on," she said. "They've been so understanding through all of this." Margaret stepped aside, giving Anna the space to address the passengers. Anna took a deep breath, then picked up the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice calm and clear, "thank you all for your patience and understanding during this unexpected situation. I'm happy to let you know that the passenger who required medical attention is now in stable condition and receiving the care she needs. We'll be resuming our journey to Los Angeles shortly. On behalf of the entire crew, I want to thank you for your cooperation and support." A soft murmur of relief spread through the cabin, and a few passengers even clapped quietly. Anna felt a small wave of gratitude wash over her. The passengers had been kind and understanding throughout the ordeal, and their support had made her job just a little easier. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Anna returned to her duties, moving through the cabin to check on the passengers. Many of them stopped her to offer kind words. "You did an amazing job," one man said, giving her a thumbs up. "That little girl is lucky to have had you looking out for her." "Thank you," Anna replied with a polite smile, though her mind was still on Lily. Another woman, seated near the front, reached out to touch Anna's arm as she passed. "You're a hero," the woman said softly. "Not everyone would have gone to the lengths you did." Anna shook her head modestly. "I just did what anyone would do," she said. "But thank you." As the plane took off and settled into its cruising altitude, Anna finally allowed herself a moment to sit down and breathe. The adrenaline that had carried her through the emergency was fading, leaving her feeling both exhausted and reflective. She stared out the window at the darkening sky, the faint glow of the setting sun painting the horizon in shades of orange and pink. She thought about Lily, about how close they had come to a tragedy. It was a sobering reminder of how fragile life could be, and how important it was to act when something didn't feel right. Anna had always loved her job, but in that moment, she realized that it was about so much more than serving drinks or ensuring passengers were comfortable. It was about protecting them, being there for them in their most vulnerable moments, and making decisions that could change, or even save, a life. By the time the plane landed in Los Angeles, the cabin was quiet, the passengers tired but content. As they disembarked, many of them stopped to thank Anna and the rest of the crew for their professionalism and care. "You're a credit to your profession," one elderly woman said, giving Anna's hand a gentle squeeze. "Thank you for everything." Anna smiled warmly. "Thank you for your kind words," she said. "Have a safe journey home." When the last passenger had left the plane, Anna helped the crew tidy up the cabin, her mind still replaying the events of the day. It had been one of the most challenging flights of her career, but also one of the most rewarding. She felt a deep sense of pride, knowing that she had made a difference. A few days later, Anna was back at home, enjoying a rare day off. She was curled up on her couch with a cup of tea, a soft blanket draped over her legs. The events of the flight had stayed with her, but she had finally begun to relax, knowing that Lily was safe and recovering. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, and she reached for it, expecting a message from a friend or a notification from work. Instead, she found an email with the subject line, "Thank you." Curious, Anna opened the email and began to read. It was from Sarah. "Dear Anna, I don't even know where to begin. I've been thinking about you every day since the flight, and I knew I had to write to you to express my gratitude. Lily is doing well now. The doctor said that if we had waited even an hour longer, her appendix might have ruptured. I can't stop thinking about how close we came to losing her, and it's all thanks to you that we didn't. You saw what I couldn't, and you didn't give up, even when I brushed off your concerns. You saved my daughter's life, and for that, I will be forever grateful. I've also been thinking a lot about myself, about how I need to be more present, more attentive to Lily. I was so caught up in my own world that I almost missed the most important thing in my life. You taught me a lesson I'll never forget, and I promise to be a better mother because of it. Lily talks about you all the time. She calls you her guardian angel. She even asked me if we could send you a thank you gift, so don't be surprised if something shows up at your door soon. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Anna. You're not just a flight attendant. You're a hero. I hope you know how much of a difference you made in our lives. With all my gratitude, Sarah Carter." Anna finished reading the email, her eyes misting over. She set her phone down and leaned back against the couch, a small smile playing on her lips. She didn't feel like a hero. She had just done what she thought was right. But knowing that she had made such an impact on Sarah and Lily's lives filled her with a quiet sense of fulfillment. She glanced out the window, where the sun was shining brightly, and took a deep breath. Life was unpredictable, full of challenges and surprises, But moments like this made it all worthwhile. She had made a difference, and that was enough. Anna picked up her tea, took a sip, and smiled to herself. It had been a long journey, but in the end it was one she would never forget.